Welcome. This is our 12th annual conference. We've done this basically 12 times. This little poster is just that we got a copy of the back table. It's just got all our postcards from the 12 conferences that we've done, starting back in 2004. And pretty much every year, Joseph Pierce has been here. Dale's been here every year. And, you know, we've had some great times, and I know a lot of you people are repeat offenders, repeat participants in our conferences, and we're just very happy to be able to do this. We're able to do this because of the kindness of the Basilian Fathers, as you know. They've supported this every year. They give us tremendous help. They give us use of the facility. They fund the speakers. So, it's a terrific thing that they do for us, and we're very, very thankful. And as you know, this past year, just very recently, in the summer, that we lost Father Joe Lanzalaco, who was a great friend and a great supporter for us too. He's much missed. Keep them in your prayers. We have many other people to thank who helped us out. Certainly the guys from the St. Irenaeus Ministries who run around and do stuff like make the microphone work, mysteriously turn on when they've had enough, and set up chairs and do all kinds of stuff to really help make this happen. And other volunteers, our local Chesterton Society and other folks who just like to come to help because this is such a great event. We can only be really, really thankful. And of course, our speakers, but they're pros, so you don't really thank them. They're required to show up and do a job. So, we guys try to warm you up to them before they get up to the microphone. Our theme today is, we really have a theme. We're taking off today from Chesterton's little chapter, The Ethics of Elfland, which is in Orthodoxy, a book he wrote in 1914. It's 101 years ago, if anyone wants to do the math. I did it already. I worked it out and checked it. It's 101 years ago.
1908.
Is that right? Oh, and you know what? It was 14 years before. See, I'm so glad I did it. Because every mistake I make, he is going to pipe up and jump over. Okay, that's good. So if it's 1,000, it's 1908, then deal. Now we gotta redo the math. So I'm sorry. I'm gonna have the answer before lunchtime. Okay. Well, people always tell me, that, gosh, I have such trouble reading Chesterton. He moves so fast, he's so fast, and I always try to be understanding. I find Chesterton such a joy to read that I don't care whether or not I understand it because I mean that. Because the journey is so much fun that I don't really care where the bus is going. The scenery is so good, and perhaps that's the difference between one reader and another when you approach Chesterton. But I thought, Ethics of Elfland is not his most difficult chapter, so I thought I'd give you, sort of the Cliff Notes version of it. Just sort of synopsize it for you, just so you can see how easy it is to just zip through this. What is it? It's probably 18 pages. What? 18 pages? 18 pages? Okay, is that a good enough, Dale?
You can also do it in 15 pages, depending upon the So I did a parade.
Thank you so much. Good. Now, what would I do without Dale correcting me? Anyway, 15 to 18 pages. Chesterton starts off talking about idealism and youthful idealism and how, how old men would always say, well, when you're young, you think like that, but then you grow up old and go practical. And then Chesterton says, and I realized after a few years that they were lying to me. The vision is the reality, but the ideal is important. So I'll just give a real brief scan, Cliff Note style or Wikipedia style, Wikipedia style, we'll call it, of what's in this chapter, so you don't have to even read it. He talks about democracy, and we often hear the phrase in Chesterton, I think it's worth doing badly, and that stops a lot of people because they say, oh, that's not what I heard. No, that's and that's not exactly what he says in this chapter, but he explains why he believes that. And he says, the most terribly important things in life must be left to ordinary men themselves. The mating of the sexes, the rearing of the young, the laws of the state, and that's democracy. And of course, naturally, you go from there, he just develops, because it's the next thing that comes to your mind, to the idea of tradition. And that tradition is not opposed to democracy as sort of, it seems like on the surface. That tradition, it really means giving votes, he says, to the most obscure of all classes, our ancestors, and calls it the democracy of the dead. And then, of course, he keeps rolling along, right? These are easy ideas to follow. There's nothing really complex about this. He gets into insight from what he learned in the nursery. Sure, that's the next natural thing that you think of when you think of democracy and tradition. And so he talks about fairy tales in common sense. And he does some very interesting things from fairy tales. Talking about reason and logic and scientific thinking. He says laws and fairy tales are entirely reasonable things. Don't or break that stick and the castle will crumble, or this other thing. Dale can quote this, and I can't. But the point is that there are rules and laws and fairy tales that don't seem to make sense, but they're very reasonable. And the fact is that fairy tales, even though they seem to be completely fictional, there's an element of truth there, and there are elements of logic in fairy tales that are not violated. He says fairy tales are entirely reasonable things, and compared with them, religion and rationalism are both abnormal, although religion is abnormally right, rationalism abnormally wrong. But he talks about how, when we approach science, and I work with scientists all the time, so I can say this kind of stuff. You have truth, and then you have what we come to call law in science, but it's not really law. There's laws of logic. 2 plus 2 is always equal to 4. But the things we see in science and in the world so often are just weird repetitions, and there's no logical reason why apples should fall from a tree. Well, that sounds a little funny. It sparked quite a lot of interest and debate, including some very great commentary from Father Stanley, the late Father Stanley Yaki, who was a philosopher of science. If you told him he was the best philosopher of science, the most reputable philosopher of science of the 20th century, he'd have said, no. He'd have said the best is Pierre Duhem or something. But then he'd have said, I'm number 2. I guess you'd have to have met Father Stanley Yaki to understand that joke. But anyway, he was quite a man and quite a mind. And Dale hosted him a number of times at the National Chesterton Conference. But his point is that Chesterton understood the metaphysics of science and of truth. And even points out that Chesterton actually would side with Einstein in his argument against some of the wild theories that were going around in physics, based on like the Heisenberg indeterminacy principle and all that stuff, which, who understands this, but that the truth can be known, that there is an objective reality, and it's just interesting to see Chesterton grouped with Einstein and fighting, but Einstein also felt was a heresy. So you can see this is really a pretty simple chapter. We talk about democracy, tradition, fairy tales, and really scientific thought, and philosophy. And Chesterton does that all in 15 or 18 pages, depending on whether you're reading Dale's version or mine. So are there any questions? Okay, so that's ethics of Elfland. So, we could really, we can really wrap this up right now, actually, because it's really quite simple stuff, and you understand it. Chesterton talks about some excellent things in this chapter, about an elementary wonder at reality, a doctrine of conditional joy, thanks and humility, miracles as willful, life as not only a pleasure, but a kind of eccentric privilege. He says the thing is magic, true or false. So today, we have, these are the best speakers I could get, okay? We're really happy to have these guys here, and I think they're going to give you a great and illuminating day. So, with that, I'm going to have Kevin O'Brien come up and introduce Joseph Pierce because no one else wants to.
Excellent.